If you had told me at the age of 12 that when I'm 23, I'm going to be living with my 2-year-old son and his father on our own, I wouldn't even bat an eyelash. I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. You're 23, you're an adult, you got your family and your baby. Go ahead, sis. Hi guys, welcome to TIMAM.
Hey guys, this channel is called Today I Made a Mistake, and we are out here just making mistakes as we go through our lives. It will either be a good time or it's gonna be a good story.
I would just like to clarify that my biggest mistake is not my son. That's not what this video is about. Today, my biggest mistake is not using protection, guys. Because being a mom is no joke, and being a parent, like responsible for growing up a human life, it's not fun. It's freaking scary. I promise this video will clear up any baby fever that you have. So if that's what you're here for, let's go. First, finding out that I was pregnant, that was a trip on its own. I remember waking up and like opening my eyes and being like, I'm pregnant. I'm definitely pregnant. Like, missing my period was not a warning sign for me personally because my period was so irregular. I would miss months often. But this morning I woke up and I was like, yeah, there's a human being growing inside you, most definitely. So I was stressed the whole day. I remember being in like class and like talking to a friend and being like, dude, after class, can we please go to your place? I want to take a test. And she's like, yeah, definitely, sure. So we go take the test. So I pee on the stick and we wait for 5 minutes and I'm with my friends and they're like, do you want to look at it first or should we look at it first? And I was like, oh, doesn't matter. I already know the answer. You guys can look at it first, whatever. So 3 of my friends are like there in the moment with me. And the one looks at it and then goes, okay, no facial reaction. The second one looks at it and then she's like, I don't know what any of this means. Like, what am I looking at? And I was like, 2 lines means I'm negative. 2 lines means you're positive. But she didn't know that, and I told her, and then she was like, oh boy, you're good. And I just knew, like my heart sunk. Even though I already knew, now I know because now it's confirmed, I was pregnant. And that was scary. That was so scary. I was still in my final year of university. I was still trying to finish. I was going through so much in my life that I was not ready. But I didn't see any other option. And for me personally, I'm pro-choice. I chose to have my baby. And that was just my life path, and that's what I chose to do. So I chose to do it, and I did. However, protect yourselves. If you can prevent that choice being made in the first place, do it. Because I would have, but I didn't, and now I'm here. A great place to be, but the hurdles I had to take to get here. So, once I had had the confirmation, I had to go tell my boyfriend, and I had told him like during the day, like, hey, I'm gonna go do a test. So he had that anxiety already in him, like, fuck, she thinks she's pregnant, she's gonna go do a test. So he's been waiting all day to hear from me, to say like, hey, it's positive or negative, and I just went radio silent on him. I did not want to see him, I did not want to talk to him, I didn't want to think about this situation. It's just too stressful and I didn't want it. He like finally just like stopped me on the stairs and was like, what is it? Like, tell me, what did the test say? So I like give him the box that the pregnancy test came in and the positive test was inside it, and he was like, no, just tell me what it says. Like, I don't want to look at the box, just tell me what it says. And I was like, it's positive. And he just sat down on the stairs, and like I could see all the fear and anxiety and stress and confusion and like guilt and worry and just all of it on his face and on his shoulders. And he just cried and I cried and we just hugged. And then we went into his apartment, ignored his roommates, and went to sleep because ain't nobody trying to have a conversation that day. Then I had to tell my parents, and that was scary. The whole reason I'm telling you guys this story and the reason for this video is to tell you that being pregnant is scary. Not just having the baby, not just growing up the human, but like every step of the process. Finding out you're pregnant, telling your partner, telling your parents, which is what I had to do next, and that was stressful. That was scary. I like wanted to leave my body. So my parents are in Durban. I'm in Grahamstown studying for my degree. And I'm like messaging my mom, hey mom, you should come visit me. I miss you so much and you should come over and just stay for a couple days. So mom's keen, she's coming over. Little does she know I'm about to make her a grandma. She comes and we have dinner together, and that night I'm like at the dinner table in a restaurant. Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm pregnant. And she just goes silent, like she's just looking at me, and she's just looking at me. So I'm like, Mom? She's like, I'm thinking. I heard you, I'm just thinking. And I'm like, okay. Then she starts asking me all the mom questions. How, when, why, how long, for who. I'm like, what do you mean who? I've only ever had one boyfriend. And then she's like, okay. So that was stressful. She's like, you need to go tell your father. We need to tell your father. So we planned to video call him the next day. And when we did, he was livid.
You deliberately disobeyed me.
He was angry. I think, like, seeing the disappointment in your parents' eyes is one of the things a child never wants to see. And I think this is one of the things that puts it into your parents' eyes. Like, I literally went away to go get a degree and instead I got a baby. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I got the degree and the baby, but the baby was not part of the package deal. And when I had told the parents, like, hey, you were getting like a combo, they were not impressed. So that went down, and you know, it's kind of a step you have to go through. You have to go through the disappointment, you have to go through the anger, you have to go through the guilt, you have to go through all of that with each person that you tell to, like your grandparents and your aunties and uncles, and not so much your friends, because your friends are more scared and happy for you rather than disappointed in you because your friends knew what you were doing. You know what I mean? But yeah, just not the funnest. What else is scary about pregnancy? I think another mistake I made was assuming that pregnancy would be scary for everybody, but that was just my experience, because the quote unquote scary things that I experienced in my pregnancy can be exciting for other people, or like, you know, intimidating or whatever, because everybody is different. But I just wanted to say that for me, everything was scary. But the overall theme of my video still stays the same. My biggest mistake was definitely not using protection. Doctor's visits. Doctor's visits are, you know, doctor's visits are not that stressful. I think the first one was very scary for me because I was going alone, and it was the first time I was ever going to a doctor's visit for like a baby. And like, my boyfriend couldn't be with me at the time because he was working, and I was very, very scared. I was very, very scared. I was in the doctor's office. I was asking questions like, am I allowed to smoke? And I know, as an intelligent human being, I know I'm not supposed to smoke when I have a baby. I just needed him to reaffirm that. I was like, am I allowed to lie in my stomach? He was like, right now you can, but when it gets bigger, don't. And I'm just like asking all these questions just to make sure, you know, like when you press 2 + 2 in your calculator, just to make sure, like, you know the answer, just to make sure. We were in for an ultrasound, and he's like, yeah, that little dot floating around in this black screen, that's your baby. And I'm like crying, bawling, like I'm lying down on this bed and the tears are just going like this into my ears. There's a human life inside me right now, like, ew. Ew. But then after that, you know, you go for doctor's visits regularly, and like, as irritating or as tiring as they are, you get more comfortable in them and they get better. But me, unfortunately, they did not get better. I found out that there was a complication in my pregnancy, and that my son had this condition called gastroschisis, which basically, if you're not a medical person, means that his intestines were outside of his body inside my womb, just like chilling and floating around with him. And they were like, this high-risk pregnancy. A hole in his stomach didn't properly close or form when the skin was growing, so it's just floating out there. And when he comes out, we'll do surgery and put it back. And I was not stressed. I was stressed when they said it was a high-risk pregnancy, because I googled gastroschisis, and it was like, your baby could be paralyzed, they could be dead, that you could die, like all these scary things. So that was stressful. But then when we got confirmed that, like, no, it's okay, the baby will come out, Many babies have gone through this and have survived and lived well into their like years being completely fine. Once I heard that, I knew my baby was safe. I was very happy. I was very fine. Weird to have outsides, inside, outside, inside. But that's how my baby chose to grow. And he's so healthy and big and strong right now. So all I can do is thank God. All I can do is thank myself. I mean, I didn't do the best work. Otherwise, his stomach would have. Well, I'm joking. Oh, then there's the whole thing about having a fucking parasite growing in your body, like inside. Oh my gosh, one of my friends told me that he had to come out of his mom because his foot was in her chest and causing her heart problems. What the fuck? As a baby, why are you doing that to the person who's hosting you? Why are you doing that to the sentient that is a portal for you into life? That's rude. That's fucked up. Tangent. So yeah, there's a parasite growing in your tummy and it feels that way. It literally feels that way. Like reading parenting books and watching YouTube videos and watching TikToks and reading journals and gathering all this information about being a parent and being a woman and having a baby and pregnancy and all of these things, like gathering this information I needed in order to succeed in this path that I was not prepared for. I read that the baby, no matter what you're doing as the mother or as the pregnant person, the baby will take what it needs from you in order to grow sufficiently. Do you know how fucking crazy that is? The baby that is growing in your belly fucking absorbs and like extracts the calcium from your human bones to create their human bones. Ew. On top of that, you don't have to be eating and drinking and whatever. You're just gonna be fucking drained and exhausted because the baby's taking all the fuel and the energy from your body, from you. So all you're doing as the pregnant person is just replenish because this baby is draining you from the inside. Tell me that's not a parasite. And then it moves and kicks and like gives you little butterflies. You know that feeling when you're like holding in a fart and your like tummy goes, imagine that 10 times stronger. That's a baby kicking in your tummy. Or like twisting and turning. And the fact that they're asleep and you're awake because your movements sway them to sleep, but then they wake up when you're asleep because you're keeping still and now they're awake. Just say you don't love me. Just say I'm gonna constantly just not be myself. Just constantly not ever have me to myself ever again, because that's what you need to prepare yourself for if you're ever not gonna use protection. So be ready. The whole narrative about being mother and you're bringing life into the world, I just don't align with it. I don't align with it because ew, there's something growing inside of me. But if I had to describe my pregnancy versus how other people who see me experience pregnancy described it, two different stories. I would say it was a magical time. I was so happy and energized and my hair was long and full and lush and my nails were growing and my eyelashes looked beautiful. My skin was glowing and clear. Like I was thriving. But ask anybody else and I was in the pits. I was in the pits wallowing in depression, in pain, in heartburn, not sleeping. What's it called? Like when you can't drink milk. Lactose intolerance, I had that, and then as soon as I gave birth it disappeared, so that's fun. But experiencing pregnancy is awful, and then you give birth and all these endorphins are released to the point where you forget how awful pregnancy was. Prepare yourself for that, because that's gaslighting on a whole nother level. Imagine you experiencing something and then you telling yourself no, you didn't experience it because it was a good experience at the end of the experience. Okay. So by now, I'm all pregnant and my parents are trying to like prepare me for this, like, your life is going to change and nothing's going to be the same again once this baby comes into your life. And I'm like, boy, it's just going to like be a +1 and I'm just going to live my life the way I am now, like chilling. I don't really go out much. Like my friends always come over here, like, I'm just going to have this little thing. +1.
I didn't know nothing, I was stupid, I was foolish, I was lying to myself.
Boy, was I fucking wrong. I am this child's slave. And I say slave because I cater to his every whim, and if not, I get punished. And that kind of sounds like a slave to me. Like, I don't know about you. And for the first year of his life, I was alone. I was a single mother, and it was awful and it was hard because his father was living in a different city and we had lockdown, so he had to stay in that city and I had to be alone with this baby that I don't understand, and that doesn't understand me, and that is trying to figure out the world and himself, and I'm trying to figure out the world and myself, and I also have to like breathe. I also have to breathe. I think having a baby is very stressful, and I do not recommend it unless you 1,000% believe that it is a good thing you are doing for yourself and for the world. Obviously, everything had to change once the baby did come, and I started realizing like, yo, this is not a +1. This is a literal being you need to mold and grow and help and guide to being a decent human in society. And so that's a lot of pressure on me. That's very scary. And if you're not willing to take on that pressure and to take on that accountability and responsibility, why the fuck are you not using protection? Go ahead, go have your adult time, go have fun, go explore yourself, go explore your sexuality, do whatever the fuck you want to do because it's your life. But if you do not want to disrupt somebody else's life, if you do not want to hinder yourself, use protection. This little piece of plastic, this little pill, this little injection, whatever you do, abstain. Like, do you, boo, as long as it's not a baby, because they're gonna drain you of your essence to create their essence, and it's beautiful and magical to watch, but it is exhausting to experience. And I love being a mother, and I love my son. If I could go back in time to my 21-year-old self, I would say, girl, stay in that room. Lock yourself up, become Rapunzel, grow your hair long. Ain't no way we're having a baby. Just, it's not the time. Through this whole experience, what did I learn? I learned that even though I wasn't prepared for a situation, I can still prevail in that situation. I don't think anybody is ever prepared for parenthood, and I think very few people say that they have prevailed in parenthood for whatever reason they choose. But I believe I am a great mother. I believe my son is growing into a magnificent human being, and I would say that's a prevail in parenthood, and I definitely was not prepared. So I learned about my own capabilities and my own skills and my own resilience, and that I have a lot of it. How did I cope? How did I cope with being a mom? I think it's tough to cope with being a mom. I'm still trying to cope with being a mom right now, and I think I'm going to be coping with being a mom my entire life until I'm not a mom anymore, which will be never, because I will always have had a son. I think cry a lot, talk to people, find somebody who you can be raw with. I had a therapist who helped me understand that even though they are my son and my very own blood and flesh, I need to have boundaries with time, boundaries with space, so that I don't lose myself into being a mother. And I think that's a trap that most mothers fall into. Their whole identity becomes just being a mom, just doing what moms do, whatever that is for you, and they forget to spend time with themselves. They forget to find themselves. And I felt pregnant at a time when I was already trying to find myself, and the pregnancy kind of put that on pause. And then I was falling into the trap of losing myself and just being a mom. And having therapy allowed me the space and the understanding to manage my boundaries and my time and how I mother and in which ways I want to mother. And that was so helpful. That was beyond anything the thing that I would recommend. Just staying true to providing for the child, but staying true for providing for yourself. Because in an airplane, you need to put on your oxygen mask before you help anybody else. And if you are not good, how will you help somebody else? Especially a little life that is dependent on you. So, today I made a mistake. I did not use protection. I became a mother, and life is just a tumble after a tumble after a stumble after a tumble.
Hello, but I'm doing everything.
Hello, Dr. Lungi. I need some help.
What? You need some help?
Thank you for raising me, bro.
Yes, my leg is broken. I fell down the hill.
Why you fell down the hill?
I was riding a bike and then I fell down the hill
Why you fell down the hill?
because I was riding my bike and then I fell down a hill and now my leg is broken and I need you to fix it, Dr. Lungi.
Why, Mommy?
Because you're the doctor.
Why?
Whole time.
Why I'm a doctor?
Don't you said you wanted to be the doctor.
Okay. Wait.
Okay, please fix my leg now.
I have shoes.
Okay, bye, Dr. Lungi.